people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, to say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the maggot base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Go through crises, storms and more. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hire his kids to run DC. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say our day. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed you spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they child up today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards, loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason, if Joe's the name, is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan.
Who you gonna call when Nazi writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic, he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue Liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish space laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolery, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes to left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk on the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming to you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. Yeah, New Orleans, Louisiana, easy for me to say today. You know, got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Join the conversation at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com. Shouts out to the Twitch chatters. We got Aaron and Orville over there. And over on YouTube, we got Vasantha, Molly, Josh, Jackie, Lainey, good to see you. Molly, Jackie, I appreciate you sharing one of the videos. It gave me an announcement or notification that you did, so appreciate that. Who else am I missing? Jeff, who says, what the hell did I just stumble into? Who is this Liberal Dan guy? Did you get some wacky stuff in Uranus and not realize what it was? Who knows who this Liberal Dan guy is? I don't know. Some guy wearing a red shirt. It's Star Trek related. It's not MAGA related, trust me. This is conservative Dan Radio. Yeah, I would almost want to do an April Fool's joke if the show fell on April Fool's, but then I wouldn't want to just lose people who like didn't realize, oh, today's April Fool's Day. Anyway, so we got Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
I said Lainey. I think I said hello to Lainey already. Get the mod squad, both Aaron and Jolie. Got Suzanne. Good to see you. For some reason we got Catherine, good to see you. Thank you for joining, Catherine. Tim, Teresa, thank you for joining. Rick, Chad, old and conservatives. Definitely have to conserve some of that stuff you said because woo, some good stuff. Anyway, Big Hook is in the chat as well. Big Hook. Made it to one of the AI generated titles for one of the shorts that was created. I was like, that's pretty darn awesome. Anyway, I thought I didn't recognize your name for Catherine, but thank you for joining. Please remember to subscribe. Smash that like button. We got Scott in the chat too. Good to see you as well. Distant Galaxy. Yes, Distant Galaxy 13 over on Twitch goes, can't believe Donnie rambled so long yesterday, set a record for longest State of the Union speech and the most loaded diaper. They probably made sure to have a better microphone set up so that if he did shit himself, that the only way you would know is if the idiot sitting behind him, aka JD Vance and, you know, Speaker Johnson, would be the only ones who would smell it. And they'd be like, or whatever. Just like the woman in the green dress, aka if you haven't seen my video yet of heard my parody of the man who shat his pants from the Nirvana / David Bowie, the man who sold the world. It is over on YouTube. Go to liberaldanradio.com and check it out. These videos are not open up yet on liberaldanradio.com, but they will be. Two songs that you did not hear during the intro, and I'm going to make it easier this way. We're going to play the two new AI parodies. We're going to play them. Well, you've already heard the parodies at the end of most shows, but we're going to do the videos that were created for these parodies, and then they'll be posted up on YouTube. So you won't get to see it again until maybe Friday, maybe over the weekend. But because you're watching live here now, or anybody who I guess watches the replay, we'll get to see this version of the new two new Liberal Dan Radio music videos based off of the parodies that I'd previously created. One of them is the song that I made about if Trump not being able to see something, it doesn't exist. And let me tell you, the AI generator with these two outdid itself this time with both of these videos. There are things that I didn't even mention in the song. If you remember the song, I never mentioned Stormy Daniels by name, and I never mentioned Donald Trump looking into the eclipse like he did without any protective glasses, which is I'm mad at myself for not even bringing that up about, you know, not being able to see something and potentially risking blinding himself with the solar eclipse, and it put that in there as well. So shouts out to the people who created this one for making this this great one, and then the other one might be even better, even if it's darker, which is the first Liberal Dan Radio parody, the Baby Incubators. But let's go ahead and play this one first. So we need a new song about Donald Trump learning something for the first time whenever he says nobody knew this. Of course, then everybody knew this. Thank you for the idea. I'll make a note of it. Trump I'm literally writing it down right now. Trump parody, nobody knew this. Maybe that'll be ready by tomorrow. Who knows? So sometimes it takes the other software that I use a little bit while to get the song right. But I haven't made a new song on that one for a while now, so maybe they've upgraded their engine even more. Helps if I spell parody right, so I know what the hell I'm talking about. Anyway, so here we go. Here is the next in the line of Liberal Dan Radio AI-generated music videos. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
Pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten, hung in a hallway where no door can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. Testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Downtown tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't beat. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind. A payout in secret, an NDA sign, an illegal bribe. Michael Cohen fined. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. If you can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
And there you go. That is the first of the two videos that were created. Yeah, the song is awesome. I love the song, and actually, I wrote most of that one. The next song that I wrote, I actually just wrote the chorus, and I changed up like one or two of the lines of the lyrics, but ChatGPT wrote the next one that was there. But yeah, so let's go ahead. I forgot to hit that. Sorry. It was muted. Yes. Anyway, so back. Now here we're going to get 17,000. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. So, sorry. I'm paying for this microphone, Mr. Green. Nice. Anyway, let's repeat all of that stuff. See, the muted comments will be delayed for 5 minutes. Yeah, I guess, I don't know if you can fast forward it or not, but at least, you know, Let's see. Muted. Anyway, so anyway, again, I don't know if I unmuted myself or remuted this one or hit the wrong one, hit the wrong of my options or whatever. But this is the next one was written by ChatGPT, except for I gave it the chorus, and I had to edit some of the lines because it was like wanted to talk about Tennessee and not like Texas or Georgia. But the Baby Incubator song created, because of the idea that, Georgia felt like it needed to keep a dead woman on incubators to make sure that she could give birth, or that they could extract the infant from her dead corpse that was being kept alive or whatever. And there's lots of references of whatever to Handmaid's Tale and stuff like that. So I'm going to mute myself again, just to make sure that I'm not talking or any of my laughs don't whatever. But here is Baby Incubators, the music video.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds, treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake, but the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect, but they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap, rights rolled back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist, just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God, bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills, sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
And there you go, the Baby Incubator song as well. So those hopefully, once they're the Agent Opus is supposed to send a gift card, and I'm going to use the gift card to buy more credits, because you get $50 for entering the contest, and I'm going to use that to just pay for the first month's pass to be able to get more videos created and download videos without the watermarks. So we're going to do that. Let's see. I would say, what if Biden tried to make women baby incubators, but MAGA would probably like that. Honestly, that was in my memories in Facebook recently, where I was basically thinking to myself, imagine if it was Obama or if it was Biden. And like I said, if Joe Biden or Barack Obama, it was either from a long time ago or more recently, if one of those two came up with a policy or rule that would ban all abortions and actually, quote, seal the border, MAGA would find some excuse to find fault with it and then not support it. Because it was them doing it and not one of their own. But we already saw part of that with Joe Biden when he was president, when they were trying to pass the border bill that was, co-written or co-authored by a Republican senator from Oklahoma. And, they were going to have more judges that would be available to adjudicate claims. And guess what? Trump said no. And then the Republicans were like, okay, well, we won't do it now because they didn't want whatever they claimed to be a problem to be solved if it could be solved underneath president that's a Democrat. They only want to make sure that Trump gets credit. So whatever they claim was an issue, it's not really an issue. It's not really a problem. Why? Obviously, because if it was really a problem, they would want it solved immediately and not force the country to wait for their favored guy to come through. So, let's see. George Civic, I remember when a bunch of low-info dipshits tried to be Biden because Roe was overturned when Joe was president. Tell me you failed 8th grade civics about telling me exactly. Well, that's a whole thing as well, where they were like, well, why didn't Obama codify Roe? Obama ran on, that he would sign a codified Roe v. Wade. And people were saying, well, if you're mad about this, why aren't you mad about Obama for not codifying Roe v. Wade? And I'm like, listen here, you dipshits. It doesn't matter if Obama would have codified Roe. Now, he didn't have the votes to codify Roe, because that's a whole other thing. I think we've discussed that more recently, but to give a 30,000-foot overview of that issue, while Democrats controlled the House and the Senate only had 60 votes caucusing with the Democratic Party for maybe about a few weeks worth of Senate business time. Because if you remember, Al Franken didn't get sworn in till like June. You had, the senator from Pennsylvania, Arlen Specter. He didn't start off as a Democrat. He flipped to the Democratic Party. And then Ted Kennedy died. So in the time between his death and them naming a temporary replacement, you then had only 59 senators at that point caucusing with the Democrats, so not 60 to hit the filibuster threshold. And then once they actually had the election, Scott Brown won because they were stupid and, didn't run a good campaign in Massachusetts. So therefore you're back to 59 again. So the amount of time that you had in the Senate with 60 votes was slim, a very small amount of time, and they had to use that amount of time to get the Affordable Care Act passed. They had to get the Matthew Shepard hate crimes bill passed. They had to get the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act passed. So you had all of those things that they had to use that slim amount of time to be able to get it done. So there was not really the ability to pass Roe v. Wade, especially because even though the majority of the House of Representatives was controlled by Democrats, the majority of the House of Representatives was also pro-life, because you had enough blue dog, aka conservative Democrats who were in there, who would not have voted to codify Roe. But let's say, for a second, let's just imagine a world where Roe versus Wade was codified, and basically the federal government says you have the right to have an abortion nationwide under the constraints of Roe v. Wade. That whatever Roe v. Wade didn't allow or allowed for, you could then do it, and it would be the law instead of a Supreme Court ruling. Well, if you read Dobbs v. Jackson, like we did here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right, you would know that the reason that Roe v. Wade was overturned is because Alito stupidly wrote that because the Constitution doesn't mention abortion, then it's not a power that the federal government has, and therefore it's a government that by the 10th Amendment goes to the states. Now, that of course ignores the 9th Amendment, which clearly states that you cannot make the argument that rights need to be enumerated in order for them to be constitutionally protected. But that's why he's one of the dumbest Supreme Court justices, if not the dumbest Supreme Court justice of all time. That being said, if they would use that argument, if Alito used that argument to overturn the Supreme Court ruling of Roe versus Wade, then why would he not then use that same argument to throw out a codified Roe v. Wade, right? Makes sense? So the people who are arguing on the right, oh, you should be mad at Obama, not at us, and not at Trump, are making a stupid argument. And there are even people on the left who are making arguments and aren't complaining that Obama didn't codify Roe v. Wade, and that's why we were in the place that we're at. Again, it's a stupid argument because, again, it would have been tossed out just like the ruling was, right? So, anyway. Yeah, they were fine. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. let's see. This whole supermajority thing was BS, and Scott Brown ran in Massachusetts as being the one vote against cloture for the ACA, and the economy was cratering before our eyes. There were fires on every corner. Can you imagine Fox News? The economy is losing 800,000 jobs a month, and the radical leftist baby-killing socialist Marcus Obama is trying to pass a law about abortion when Roe versus Wade is already the law of the land. Yeah, pretty much. Again, there were more important things to pass than codifying Roe. Now, if you could get a constitutional amendment to protect the right to abortion, that would be fine. But again, presidents don't have anything to do with that. Thought the 14th was used to justify right to privacy, either that or the 9th. Well, I mean, the 14th Amendment was used to justify the right to privacy, but the 9th Amendment, which is often not used, basically says, hey, there are constitutionally protected rights that are not codified. And I make that point all the time because every single time a conservative will say, look, this is not a right because it's not listed in the Constitution. And I'll be like, look here, dummy. I actually used to have it automatically like a button when on my old computer. Well, I have to bring that back up where I put the text of the 9th Amendment across the bottom of the screen to let everybody know, hey, fools, this is what the 9th Amendment says. You're stupid because you don't know it. So maybe you're ignorant. Maybe it's not stupid. Maybe it's just ignorant that you don't know that. But at this point, I think people are willfully ignorant about things, especially when it comes to the Constitution. The Constitution is a convenient thing to use when, when you think it supports your case, but as soon as it doesn't support your case, they ignore it like it's the plague. And I'm sure there are conservatives who will say, oh, the liberals do it too. Sure, yeah, they do, and I criticize them when they do it as well. So, yeah, blame Obama for not predicting that in 8 years in the future, the American people would thank him for rescuing the economy and saving our asses by voting in a fascist orange monster who bragged about SA. Exactly. Can you imagine if Biden had bragged about sexually assaulting someone?
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Dan beat me that one. That was the point. I need to do it myself sometimes, right? A church certificate game also says, I think for the median voter, those are unknown unknowns. Very good Rumsfeld callback. There you go. Let's see. Big hook. If Hosteen was a fish, he'd be a crappie. Nice. Got Janelle in the chat. Good to see you, Janelle. Have I missed anybody else so far who has come in as I was kind of... MJ Daniel, good to see you. Yeah, they lost their shit when Obama saluted holding a coffee. There was another time when Obama, he was walking up to Air Force 2, I think it was the helicopter. I think that's what they call it, Air Force 2. And the soldier saluted him, and he forgot to salute back. And Obama turned around, got back off of the helicopter, saluted him again, apologized, and shook his hand. Do you think Donald Trump would ever do that? No. Donald Trump might buy him a cheeseburger because guess what? Donald Trump welcomed the men's hockey team to the White House. They were at the State of the Union, then they were at the White House, and he gave these, American heroes, some of them at least, the people that won the gold for the United States, some of them, of course, and treated them all to a nice meal of cheeseburgers. Of course, he was on the phone basically saying, oh, I guess I have to invite the women too, or else they try to impeach me. Yoke, yoke, yoke. Of course, showing off his true sexism, because we all know Donald Trump is a sexist, because sexism and racism and bigotry or whatever is core essential parts of the MAGA conservative Republican Party, because they are core tenets of Donald Trump's core belief systems. If you actually believe he has belief systems, some of them are that. And of course, the women have the dignity to say, we're not going to grace you with our presence. We have other things to do. They should have made some comment like, oh, we're just washing our hair just to be silly, just to double down on his sexism and call out his sexism. But yeah, so yeah, they were not there. They did not get the dinner welcome for the cheeseburgers. Of course, if I was a woman, I would not want to be in a room with Donald Trump, whatever, because, he's the grab him by the hoo-ha guy, and who would want to be in a room with that? Anyway, Church said again, why are we the only country that is too misogynistic to elect a woman president? I don't know, but we went over the numbers when people were trying to make those arguments about, you know, how this wasn't a sexist or racist election back in 2024. And if you went to all the states that Vice President Harris lost where another Democrat won statewide, if Harris would have gotten the same amount of votes that either the white woman or the male got in those elections, she would have defeated Donald Trump soundly. So something about her being a woman in some states, or maybe something about her being black or a black woman in other states, caused this country to go back to the orange buffoon that is Donald John Trump.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. See, Big Hook. Freedom means being able to make decisions for yourself, and that includes your body. Abortion is healthcare. Pregnancy is not only a financial burden, but is also life-threatening. 1/3 end in miscarriage. Hell, you know, if you, I'm of the staunch opinion when it comes to these pro-life arguments who try and make the argument that, you know, they don't want IVF. Some of these fools, you know, think that the morning after pill is an abortion pill. Some people, you know, think birth control pills are abortion pills because then they believe wrongly that oral contraception stops implantation. And that used to be what people believed. They used to believe that people, if you took an oral contraception or if you took a morning after pill, that it would prevent fertilization, ovulation, and implantation. But now studies have come out. Actually, it's not even now. It's like, you know, back in 2005, 2006, when I read about these studies, that it was no longer the belief. It's no longer the belief. There's no evidence to show that a birth control pill or the morning after pill will prevent a fertilized egg from implanting to the uterine wall. That being said, if you oppose the idea that something, if you consider it morally equivalent to abortion to have something, an embryo created and not implant, well, then you shouldn't be having sex, pro-lifers, because about 30 to 40% of all embryos that are created in normal, regular environments, like in a normal, healthy person, if somebody has an embryo created within them, and you know, about 30 to 40% of them will naturally just not get implanted, will just get discarded and go run away. If I partook in an activity that included a 30 to 40% chance that a baby of mine would die, I would be arrested and have my baby taken away from me for child endangerment. So if you think that an embryo is the same as the baby, then you need to not have sex, because every embryo that's created has a 30% chance or more of being discarded. So you're knowingly and willingly putting that embryo into a dangerous environment, and you should feel ashamed of yourself. Now, for the rest of us who don't consider embryos to be the same thing as infants, you know, go ahead and have as many kids as you want, 0 or more, because it's your body and your choice. But the silly idea that an embryo and the babies are the same thing is, of course, a fiction and not representative of science. Which reminds me of, I was talking to one of my friends about how I would love to have, you know, one of these, you know, videos that I created go viral. The only thing of mine that ever went viral really was I had one post on my old Facebook page, because I still have it. I still have Liberal Dan, facebook.com/Liberal Dan, and there's also facebook.com/Liberal Dan Radio. I use Liberal Dan Radio one more than I use Liberal Dan. That being said, there was a post on there, and I was having an argument. I called it "Argument with an Imbecile in Blue" or something like that, where I highlighted over most instances of his name, and I said, and I was basically talking about how using the argument that I typically use with these anti-choicers that try and equate an embryo with a born baby. I was like, look, if we were in a hospital room, and let's say there was a baby on a cart that was like, you know, it was had a battery backup to it, plugged into the walls, like in a NICU or something like that. And let's say you had the option where there was a fire, and you had two hands, and you could only push one thing out. That one thing would either be one infant in a cart to push them out to safety, or you had a freezer with 100 embryos in it, 100 frozen embryos in it. Which one would you push to safety? I would push the infant, right? Everyone else with, you know, who's reasonably sane Even the people who aren't reasonably sane, even the MAGA folks would push the infant and not the embryos, not the frozen embryos. And this fool was like, that's ridiculous. You can't freeze embryos. That's witchcraft. You can't freeze babies. You can't. I'm like, that's my point. They're not babies because they're still embryos, but you can absolutely freeze them for an indefinite amount of time and then thaw them out and then implant them into somebody, and that person can get pregnant. And the person was absolutely just nuts, just horrified over the idea that this could happen. And I got over 1 million views. I got so many views that I actually had to prove that I was who I said that I was to protect the account, to protect the page, to make sure nobody else can grab that page. That's how crazy and how many views that post got. So unfortunately, I've never had something hit that big on the new Facebook page, the facebook.com/liberaldanradio, nor have I had anything go that viral on TikTok, YouTube, etc. So maybe one of these videos that I made will get viral. Who knows? I don't know. Atrocious at every game, quoting what I was singing last time. Don't know much about biology. Don't know much about history. Don't know much about the science book. Don't know much about the French I took. Anyway, people unironically said that Hillary or Kamala would be on her time of the month and bomb Iran. Trump just threatens nuclear war on Twitter with Iran and North Korea at 3 a.m. while on the toilet. Exactly. I mean, Eero bowel syndrome is the thing too, right? So, let's see. I don't think Trump would have ever lost to a man. He won against 2 women. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, is that the country and the election of Donald Trump has made it so that people are now going to balk at who they put up for president next, because they're going to have in the back of their heads, well, is this country ready for? And they're going to make those arguments, because I'm sure they made it for Harris with Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton lost. Because, again, people were stupid and thought about her emails, or you had the Bernie bros who, again, look, I would have been perfectly happy and fine voting for Bernie Sanders if he would have won the nomination, but he ignored the South during the primaries and as such could not win the election. Then you had in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, they had a polling done. They polled like over 50,000 people, and it showed that 12% of the people who voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary flipped to Trump in the runoff, and had those people just stayed home or even voted Jill Stein, Clinton would have won that election. But they had to vote for Trump, and of course some people did it because they believed the stupidity. They had the stupidity to believe that, oh, Roe versus Wade is not going to get overturned. Oh, Donald Trump's not going to he's not going to get to name 3 Supreme Court justices. Who is this liberal Dan guy fooling? When I predicted that back in 2016, right? Anyway, so, and then same thing with Harris. You had Democrats winning statewide in enough races, but guess what? Those Democrats decided that they were going to vote for Trump and the Democrat as well. Bunch of morons. So, let's see, Chad. I really hope the Dems win the midterms. I got 13,000 bet on Kalshi. Well, hopefully that wins, and hopefully you can then make some more grand super chats, right? Anyway, see, Jeff. When I was a kid, we found an albino bullfrog, solid white. I wonder what it may have looked like when it was a tadpole. I got ideas. Nice. I wonder what it would look like too.
Oh my.
Anyway. See, Joseph, I like it when people mind their own business. Don't like it, then don't do it. Exactly. Don't want to have an abortion? Don't get an abortion. My mother-in-law, God rest her soul, my mother-in-law was personally pro-life. She says, I would never have, her words were basically, I would never have an abortion, but if you want to kill your baby, go right ahead. And I was like, well, I'm not going to argue with that one. And she voted Democrat because, she was an intelligent woman. Let's see, what else did I miss? I didn't miss too much here in the YouTube chat. Again, please make sure that if you haven't smashed that like button, please smash the like button. You could also, that the little heart button down below with the laughed reacts or the hearts or the hundreds or the shocked reacts, that also helps the algorithm spam those as well, right? Joe, Churches Every Game, Biden was also pro-life, but didn't want to impose that on other people. And actually, Biden moved more to the left, I think, as he aged. It was Biden that got Obama to move left on gay marriage, right? So, you know, it was Biden that actually moved him that way to support that. 28 viewers, 29 likes on YouTube. Make sure to smash that like button, and then the patriarchy. But let's go ahead and let's see. This week, we do have a Hypocrite of the Week this week. If you're new to the show, every week I will play a Hypocrite of the Week, or I'll try to play a Hypocrite of the Week. I think the last time I did one was a month ago, but I've been rather busy in the last month, and when I was trying to get a new job, and now I do have one, but still, yay. I kind of, you know, hinted at it from time to time, but we are going to do this week's Hypocrite of the Week. Be back in a second with that. This week's Hypocrite of the Week is J.D. Vance, who announced the halting of Medicaid funds to Minnesota, I quote, to ensure the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. The total being held back is just under $300 million. Vance's boss is, of course, Donald Trump, who is suing the federal government for $10 billion. So much for the stewardship of our tax dollars. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com for more talk from the left. That's right. And there you go. That is this week's Hypocrite of the Week, which should go live shortly after the show ends, just as a separate audio or separate video on whatever. It wasn't that long of a break. It was just a 30-second clip, but I record it so that I can, you know, have that ready to go and be all packaged up and to be ready to push up to YouTube once the show is over. But I did grab a gulp of water as we were doing this week's Hypocrite of the Week. So, yeah. So J.D. Vance, it was announced today that they were going to be halting Medicaid funds. Let's see. Trump administration is temporarily halting $259 million in funding to Minnesota, Vice President J.D. Vance said Wednesday. Vance said the payments will be paused until the state government takes its obligations seriously to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against the American taxpayer. Of course, this is all bullshit made up. I mean, is there some fraud going on? Yes, but it's not. It shouldn't be to the detriment of the entirety of the state of Minnesota. And of course, I don't think it's all Medicaid funds. The news of the temporary halting about the massive amount of federal funding, which provides health insurance to low-income people, comes as the state has been a target of federal government following allegations of fraud perpetrated by child care providers in the state. I guess it's allegations of fraud. It's not necessarily proven. There was an example of Feeding Our Families fraud that did take place. That wasn't actually run by somebody who was Somali descendant. It was somebody who was a white woman. And the only reason that her being white is relevant is because everybody was talking about the fact that this is all Somali fraud, when it's not. It was the ringleader wasn't a Somali person to begin with. Somebody's Somali heritage doesn't make them fraudulent, doesn't make them a criminal, doesn't make them more likely to be a criminal. And there's data that shows out there that people who are here, who are immigrants, are less likely to commit crimes than the general populace as a whole. So last December, federal officials froze $185 million in child care funds to Minnesota. And last month, the administration announced it was freezing $10 billion in funding. Man, maybe that's 10 billion numbers because it keeps popping up. You know, Donald Trump saying he's going to sue for 10 billion. Is that where he's going to get the 10 billion from? The social service program freezing that he's claiming he's going to stop. Is that where he wants to get the money from? At least now, he was going to get it, I guess, from the tariffs, but the tariffs were deemed unconstitutional. So F off there, Trumpy boy. But yeah, that makes no sense that you're going to sit there and you're going to try and claim that this 200 and whatever $million in funding that you're going to try and stop from Minnesota from getting. Now, I'll guarantee you that Minnesota will probably bring it to court or probably sue over it, and they'll probably win again because the idea that Donald Trump has the ability to freeze these funds is just absurd. I doubt the courts will rule with him in this particular instance as well. But because here's the thing, like, you shouldn't, if there's fraud going on, you should go after the people perpetuating the fraud. You shouldn't punish the people who need the funding. And that's what Republicans, I mean, I would say what Republicans don't get, but in reality, they probably do get it. They do understand that this is going to not just hurt people who are committing fraud, but it's going to hurt people who need the funding, but who are in the groups of people who Republicans don't like. And that's the poors. They don't like the poors, so therefore they're going to do whatever they can. This is I'm this close to calling it eugenics. I'm this close from basically saying they're using this supposed fraud that's supposedly rampant across Minnesota and other blue states, and they're going to use this to cut funding off to people so that they could transfer the money to more areas where they want to enrich their rich friends and have the welfare for the rich going on, and also have the side effect, or maybe even one of the main effects, of making more poor people, especially poor people from marginalized and oppressed communities, those increased numbers of deaths that are going to happen because they don't have the money to get have clinics be open. They won't have the money to be able to go to the hospital to go see a doctor. So you lose the funding, so you lose doctors, you lose access. Lather, rinse, repeat. More people die, more undesirables according to them will die, and that's their end goal here, is because MAGA is a culture of death, be it a culture of death when it came to the pandemic, when it came to not caring about your fellow human beings and not caring about whether or not your actions cause the virus to spread to others, to the people who are vulnerable, people who are more likely to die if they catch COVID, to people who have no problem with removing condom supports to be sent to Mozambique, to the city of Gaza or whatever in Mozambique, or the area of Gaza in Mozambique, not Gaza in Palestine, but Gaza in Africa. Maybe it wasn't Mozambique, but it's Africa somewhere. And they were sending condoms to help people, to help prevent the spread of HIV/AIDS, because guess what? If you prevent the spread over there, you make it less likely for it to be able to spread worldwide and globally, right? There's benefits to that, but they don't understand science. They hate science. Cutting off USAID funds, which not only hurt American farmers, but it also hurt people who were, needing that food or whatever. Again, more people die. MAGA is a culture of death. They will claim they're pro-life, but they're really just pro-control as it pertains to individuals, to preventing them from being able to stop their own pregnancies, to prevent themselves from getting pregnant in the first place. And in reality, they just want more people dead. As Alan Grayson said, the Republican health plan way back in the day, don't get sick. If you do, die early. Because that's, again, what Republicans, they don't give a shit about you or people who are living, as long as they're those people who are not in their own groups. Now, they'll whine, bitch, moan, and complain if something bad happens to one of their own, but that's, again, one of the main differences between the Republicans and the Democrats, between the conservatives and the liberals and the leftists and the progressives, is that the conservatives need something to happen to one of their own or to themselves in order for them to actually speak up and care about it. We on the left will see something bad happening to somebody else, and it doesn't matter if I'm in that group or not. I will see something that's happening to them, and I'll know that it's wrong, and I'll speak up out against it. Because we actually have empathy. We actually have feelings for other people. We actually care and want to make sure that all people are protected and not just a certain small group of people like the maggots want to support. So, Gamer J, why do we gatekeep food and shelter? Because there's no money in it? Because they want it, because these conservatives only want to support programs that will help enrich their friends. It's as simple as that. Let's see. Vance, in his thing, mentioned a program he claimed to offer after-school services to children with autism, but did not actually do so, though he did not offer any identifying information about that program. Oz added that the top fraudulent biller in the state submitted 450 days where they claimed they were working more than 24 hours a day, but did not provide corroborating information. So again, And again, if this administration is going to claim that certain things happen, there's no reason for you to believe this administration when they claim these things happen. Because again, this administration has claimed that, for 11 months now, that there have been 0 illegal border crossings on our southern border, and that's full of shit. That is not a true statement. They lie about everything, so why would you believe anything that they say? The onus should be on them. According to Health Policy Research Organization, KFF, Kaiser Family Foundation, Medicaid covers nearly 1.2 million kids and adults in Minnesota, more than half of whom are nursing home residents. More than 3/4 of Medicaid enrollees in the state are working full-time, the data shows. Dr. Oz said that the federal government will only release the funds after they propose and act on a comprehensive corrective action plan to solve the problem, adding that Governor Tim Walz has 60 days to do so. He suggested similar announcements to come to other states soon, and mentioned Florida, New York, and California as potential targets. I will laugh. I'm going to sit here and say that it's not going to happen to Florida. It will not happen, and I'm not going to say I will eat a hat. I don't have any edible hats to eat, but I will come on and say I guess I was wrong if they do go after Florida at some point. But I do not believe for 1 second that they will go after Florida. They'll go after New York and California, absolutely, but they're not going to go after Florida, not one bit. Oz goes, this is not a problem with the people of Minnesota. Yes, but you're going to end up killing them anyway. But they didn't have a problem when 2 people from Minnesota died at the hands of ICE, so why would they give a shit about more people dying at the hands of a lack of Medicaid funding? It's needless deaths. It's unnecessary deaths when they take place because we could fund these things and we don't. Again, go after them. Punish the people who are actually committing fraud. If you were committing fraud with federal tax dollars, especially stealing from funding that could go and be used to help the marginalized and oppressed people, to help impoverished people, to help people who absolutely need it and can't afford health insurance on their own, by all means, go after those people. Punish the crap out of them. I'm not going to sit here and say, no, don't do that. Absolutely do that. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right? In a post on X on Wednesday night, Walz said the announcement has nothing to do with fraud. The agents Trump allegedly sent to investigate fraud are shooting protesters and arresting children. His DOJ is gutting the U.S. Attorney's Office and crippling their ability to prosecute fraud, and every week Trump pardons another fraudster. Exactly. Minnesota lawmakers said the state's Attorney General Keith Ellison have introduced legislation that would add more than a dozen new staffers to the AG's office's Medicaid fraud control unit, and that would strengthen the state fraud laws. Spokespeople for the state's Department of Health and Human Services, which administers the Medicaid program, Ellison's office said Senator Tina Smith, Democrat Minnesota, and Senator Amy Klobuchar did not immediately respond to MS Now's request for a comment. So there's that. Let's see. Distant Galaxy, if you're poor, you're weak. That's the thinking, pretty much. Exactly. Liberal Dan Radio says, Christine, you don't have the cases if you don't count them. Don't you know? Exactly.
If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist.
Chaz says they are definitely going into Florida. They are more DME providers than they do McDonald's. Yeah, but who owns a vast majority of those? Doesn't like Rick Scott have either Rick Scott and his wife, or it's DeSantis and his wife, or something. One of those two, or both of them maybe, have connections and have ownership in these businesses that go after and get money from the federal government and shovel that into their own pockets. They're not going to punish their own. I will laugh if they punish their own. I will absolutely be shocked if they went after Florida and withheld funds. Now, they might do it differently in Florida. They might act differently. I just don't think they're going to freeze Medicaid funds to Florida. That's my point. And if they do, I'll admit that I was wrong, because I do that, because that's what people with integrity do, unlike this president who will never say I was wrong. Anyway. And you also have another story. Trump on Wednesday, he escalated his rhetoric against 2 Muslim Democratic lawmakers, suggesting saying on social media that Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib look like they should be institutionalized, suggesting that we should send them back to where they came. Go back to where you came from. Where have we heard that before? Right? He's not racist, not one bit. The remarks came a day after Trump's State of the Union, where Omar and Tlaib were among the loudest detractors. The pair sat next to each other and heckled Trump numerous times throughout the speech. When you watch low IQ Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib as they screamed uncontrollably last night, I mean, Donald Trump goes on so many unhinged rants that how the hell does he call anybody A, low IQ, B, how does he call any, and you know, he should love Omar and Tlaib if they were actually low IQ individuals. Why? Because Donald Trump said he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada. I love the poorly educated. I love them. Of course, he texted this, so of course he put lunatics in caps. Such an important, beautiful event. They had the bulging, bloodshot eyes of crazy people, lunatics, mentally deranged and sick. Frankly, look like they should be institutionalized. Yeah. Omar, who came to the United States as a refugee from Somalia, as a naturalized U.S. citizen. Tlaib, who was born in Detroit, has birthright citizenship. Yeah, so go send Tlaib back to where she came from, the United States, where she already is. And Donald Trump has the gall to call anybody else low IQ. He's probably the dumbest president we've ever had. And that's why the poorly educated love him, because they sympathize and empathize with him. Actually, I don't even know if they empathize with him, because I don't believe they would empathize with anybody, because that you would have to have empathy to actually do it. They are freezing all durable medical equipment applications across the whole country for the next 6 months until they can rid it up. And how's that helpful? How is that helpful? How is that that's going to hurt more people. If you need durable medical equipment to treat a health condition, like, you know, I'm not on Medicare or Medicaid. I used to be. I was when I first got on my CPAP machine, because when I first got my CPAP machine, I was massively much more overweight. I was 150 pounds heavier than I am today. And when I had that, guess what? Guess what? I wouldn't be able to have the apnea dealt with, because I would not be able to get my durable medical equipment, because I was on Medicaid at the time, because they put me on it when I didn't have a job during the middle of COVID. And I was like, look, I was trying to pay my insurance, and I was like, well, might as well, you know, now when we're on open enrollment, let's go ahead and try and see if I can get on, you know, some sort of exchange plan. And I did, and it was like, oh, everybody on Medicaid. I'm like, okay. Anyway, so the idea that we should be stopping durable medical equipment from being paid for by Medicaid nationwide until we figure out what's going on. Same kind of wording that he used when he was talking about his Muslim ban, right? So, yeah, it's absolutely mind-numbingly stupid. You can still get it from reputable dealers, but there are a lot of places, medical numbers putting in bogus orders in. And go after those people, but don't stop the funding. That's the point. You don't stop the funding to those places, to all of the places, just because some are committing fraud. Punish the people committing fraud. And maybe if we didn't have these fictions like corporations that allow people to get away with harming people under the guise of this piece of paper called an LLC or corporation. Do I have one? Absolutely, because don't hate the player, hate the game. But maybe if we didn't allow people to hide behind corporations to commit these acts, guess what? Maybe there would be more teeth on these laws, and people would be more afraid to actually, you know, commit fraud, because they'd be afraid of the actual punishment that you'd be able to go after their own money. But then Donald Trump would never do that, because that's how Donald Trump made a lot of his money, is by fraud, by defrauding people, by misusing bankruptcy laws with his own corporations after, you know, promising to pay money to these contractors. And then guess what? They said, nope, he's not going to pay them, but he said he's going to pay himself. And then, oh, we don't have the money left over to pay you what we owe you. So therefore, we're going to commit bankruptcy or declare bankruptcy to try and avoid paying all of our creditors. Speaking of which, my former employer has now, as of last Thursday, is declaring bankruptcy. And while I might not be owed the same amount of what other people are owed as it pertains to wages and stuff like that, because I was able to find a job more quickly, they still owe me a week of vacation. That they said that they were going to pay out, and then they didn't pay out. So they're declaring bankruptcy, and I won't talk too much about it because, again, I haven't jumped into anything yet. But they owe me 5 days of PTO that I rolled over from last year to this year, plus maybe whatever PTO would have been available this year too. I don't know. But yeah, they've officially filed for bankruptcy in federal court on Thursday. So will I ever see that $2,000? Who knows? Maybe I'll get a bunch of it. Maybe I'll get all of it. Apparently, according to the law, as somebody who's owed wages, I am one of the first in line as compared to other people who are owed money, I guess because they can't, fulfill their obligations like, leases that they filled out, for example. So I get to be up on that list. So maybe I'll get most of it, if not all of it, but still problematic, to say the least. So... hey, Luck Dragon, good to see you. I'm not ignoring you. I see you. Let's see. A church certificate game. If the Trump administration came out against fraud, wouldn't everyone have to resign, starting with the Orange president, the fantastic shadow president with giant head Stephen Miller, the VP who ate cats ladies and a strange relationship with a couch, the puppy killer? I can go on. Yes. If Biden had committed that much fraud...
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, that screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Let's see. The trust certificate game. Oh, no doubt he made a post making Columbus Day great again or some shit. He had no fucking idea we're on stolen land. Columbus just discovered jack shit, and my first grade teacher lied to me. Yeah, pretty much. I even missed that. Imagine if Biden had written an insane post with lunatics in caps. What would have happened then? I don't know. Christine says, if I miss your chat, please don't take it personally. I am cooking and I'm hungry. What are you cooking, Christine? What are you making me? I made a lemon herb chicken that I made in an air fryer with some gluten-free mac and cheese, and it's actually pretty darn good. Kraft macaroni cheese actually made a decent macaroni and cheese that is gluten-free. I guess the only thing that would be non-gluten in it would be a wheat pasta, and they've actually managed to come up with some decent gluten-free pastas. So imagine that, right? So Christine, see, I can't spell, multitasking. What did you make, Lainey? What did you make for dinner? It's food talk on Liberal Day Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Anyway, let's see. Let us, while we're going over and seeing what the... let's talk about this one first. Because there was also breaking news earlier, or right before we went on the show, or right as I was getting ready to prepare the show, or as I was getting ready to start cooking my own dinner. FBI Kash Patel and Susie Wiles' phone. FBI obtained Kash Patel's and Susie Wiles' phone records during Biden administration. Phone records were collected around the time of Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Records were labeled prohibited, making them harder for Trump officials to find. Patel said investigators obtained toll records which detail the timing and recipients of calls. The FBI subpoenaed records of phone calls made by Kash Patel and Susie Wiles, now the FBI director and White House chief of staff, when they were both private citizens in 2022 and 2023. Blah, blah, blah. Patel portrayed the seizing of his phone records by the FBI in efforts to conceal them as an example of overreach by unelected government officials under Biden, a theme often repeated by President Trump. It is outrageous and deeply alarming that the previous FBI leadership secretly subpoenaed my own phone records, along with those of now White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, using flimsy pretexts and burying the entire process, blah, blah, blah. Reuters could not independently verify many of the details of Patel's claims, including the full extent and timing of the seizure of his phone records and the motive for doing so. Patel said the records were filed in a way that made it difficult for him and FBI leaders to find them after taking over the Bureau in February of 2025. At least 10 current FBI employees have been dismissed as a result of the revelations of the targeting of Patel, Wiles, and others connected to the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, according to FBI officials. So, what is it? They don't want you to. They want you to not be told. Like they want to go after like Mark Kelly and other folks for saying that if you're a troop, if you are a soldier, if you're serving in the military, that you have to follow orders. Or they said you don't have to follow illegal orders, but they are upset about that. These conservatives are mad that Mark Kelly and others would say such things. But now apparently Kash Patel is showing that if you are following the orders that you're given by your superiors, that you can, of an in and of yourself, be fired. So is that basically Kash Patel saying that if those people, those agents are responsible for the orders that they got, and maybe he's suggesting that those people should not have followed the orders that were given? Is that what he's saying? Can you imagine if Biden would have not, would have fired people in such a way, like, or somebody under the Biden administration would have fired people in such a way?
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, that scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
I wasn't even looking. I was seeing the blue text kind of scroll up, and I was like, maybe I'll beat him to it this time. Let's see. See, whoever wrote this is President Biden to you. Show some fucking respect. Yeah. Sure. Let's see. It was, who wrote this Reuters article? Jana Winter is the author of this article. Let's see. Patel said in 2022 Trump had declassified documents taken to Mar-a-Lago, a claim prosecutors disputed and Trump's lawyers did not make in court. And of course, Donald Trump, if they would have gone after the Bedminster files, which is again one of my problems with Merrick Garland and his inaction, or his delay in action, was that they didn't go after the Bedminster case, which you had clear evidence of him saying, I could have made these declassified, but I did not. So again, that's one of the stupid things about the Republicans, conservatives, the MAGA folks who were trying to say that Donald Trump could just declassify something with a thought. As long as he thought something declassified, it became declassified. But then how do you prove it? You need to have some sort of written record. And then what if he declassifies something in his head, but then other people are with versions of the same document that are not marked as declassified? So then if you don't say, hey, these are now declassified, you have a Schrodinger's declassified thing. So that's why you need to have a paper trail. But these folks are too stupid to understand this. And that's why Donald Trump loves the poorly educated. So yes, Garland was an absolute disaster. Both Patel and Wiles were known to have been interviewed by investigators as part of Smith's investigation. And again, why would I believe that Patel, when he claims that these things were actually taking place under the previous administration? I would not believe this, anything from this administration. They would have to prove it to us. They should have to provide the evidence to prove it, because I'm at the point where there's nothing that these idiots will say that I will be like, okay, that makes sense. Hell, even if the blood clots win and they claim that there's an bloated orange corpse, bloated from, the fact when you die, you bloat, not fat shaming, but bloated because that's what happens, I guess, when you to a carcass on the side of the road. I would want to pull a Ferris Bueller's Day Off quote and haul out the dead grandma, or whatever, as he said, as the principal said, just bring out your dead grandma and then we'll believe it. Why? Why would I ever believe anything that this administration says, including and up to that? I mean, I might be cautiously optimistic if I ever got that news, but I'm not going to sit here and believe it until it actually prove to us that we're not having some sort of thing. Hell, they should be proving to us that it's not Weekend at Bernie's either, right? So, oh my God, that would make an incredible AI song scene. What, the Weekend at Bernie's, Weekend at Donnie's, or Haul Out the Dead Body, or whatever, that thing? Imagine if Biden tried to declassify something with his dark branded mind powers laser. Hey, no, Biden is not Jewish. He does not have control of the lasers. Do not take that away from us. You'll take away my Jewish space lasers when you pry them from my cold, dead hands.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had panic, whole numbers would slip. Had died and done it, that scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Anyway, so we still haven't got to the point to discuss the State of the Union and the bullshit from there. But first of all, I do want to go over this stuff first because this is amazing. This the Louisiana Senate race is just shaping up to be an amazing race. Amazing race. I mean, the amount of moving parts in this with people trying to challenge an incumbent Republican senator who is like in charge of the health committee or whatever. They made sure that he got on Trump put him on the health committee after Bill Cassidy voted to impeach Donald Trump. Like, they still put him on this committee because they needed his vote to make sure that you could get, Brainworm King himself, RFK Jr., and in order for him to get the Brainworm King to pass the Senate and get the hearing, they needed to give him that seat on that committee, leading the committee, and also they had to make sure that he got some sort of concessions, which is basically a promise that RFK Jr. would do things that now he's broken those promises on. Let's see. Christine, the State of the Union is fucked. It didn't take me 2 hours to say that. I don't think a president has ever said that. That would be great, though, if a president got up there and be like, the State of the Union is total garbage. So, yeah. But let's first talk about the Senate race going on there. So, first and foremost, we have Letlow, Julie Letlow. Let's just center myself here for this instead of otherwise. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to handle it. Julie Letlow and her campaign ad about how she helped Trump fit his promises.
Julia Letlow.
Julia Letlow. She's a widow, and I would like to bang her. No, I don't know. She might be too old at this point for Donald Trump to want her. Anyway, let's continue.
She's done a great job.
Parents should always have a seat at the table when it comes to their child's education. Here in Louisiana, we are honored to help President
Julia Letlow, they're bragging about the detention centers that they want to build in Louisiana. Like, yay for concentration camps.
Trump fulfill his promises to keep America safe.
He's not, but let's continue.
A promise of real change, real progress, and real investment. And today that promise is being fulfilled by the Congresswoman Julia Letlow.
She's done a great job.
She's done a great job. Great job for Julia Letlow. So he's endorsed Julia Letlow. Julia Letlow got the endorsement of Donald Trump, which, makes this ad seem even weirder because, it's the Donald Trump endorsed candidate, and this PAC is talking about the liberal Letlow is what this ad is. And this ad plays all the time on TV. It's played on Jeff Carreir's show, etc. So let's hear the liberal Letlow ad.
What do Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Julia Letlow have in common? Liberal Letlow voted with Biden more than any Louisiana Republican in the U.S. House. Like Nancy Pelosi, Letlow traded hundreds of stocks in Congress. She even violated federal law by failing to report them. And when she worked...
Notice, it says failing to report them, but then it says late disclosures. So she actually reported them, she just did it late. But, words have meaning. Who cares about the meanings of words, right?
At a university, Letlow initiated radical DEI policies. You can't trust liberal Julia Letlow.
Louisiana Freedom Fund. Now, the Louisiana Freedom Fund, they don't say who. They says, of course, Louisiana Freedom Fund paid for this and is responsible for the content of advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee, blah, 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 blah. But, of course, who is supporting, who is this ad or this PAC supporting, pretty much? It is a Bill Cassidy backed PAC. So it is Bill Cassidy who is supporting this. But let's throw a monkey wrench in the works, shall we? Let's throw another monkey wrench in the works because there's somebody else. The state treasurer of the state of Louisiana, John Fleming, a Republican, is also trying to unseat Bill Cassidy in the primary. Because again, Louisiana used to have across the board primaries that were open, so everybody would run. So if Letlow wanted to run, Letlow would run, and Cassidy could run, and a Democrat could run, and John Frankie Hires, who we've had on the show, could run, and everybody could run. And then the top 2 vote getters, if nobody got 50% plus 1, the top 2 vote getters would go into the runoff. But they've made certain elections, like Congress and Senate at this point, they've closed those primaries back up. So now it's the Republicans running against the Republicans. You'll have a runoff in the Republican primary if the top 2, none of the PAC makes the and PAC, PACK, not political PAC. If none of the Republicans make 50% plus 1, you'll get a runoff in the primary, and then those people will go to the general, or that one individual will go to the general election and run against the Democratic candidate, and everybody else who got in via petitions, as we've talked about in the show before. But this is John Fleming and his ad that he's been running across the state as well.
From a blue-collar family, worked his way through college and medical school, naval military veteran, small-town family doctor, successful small businessman employing hundreds, against all odds elected to Congress, founded the strongly conservative House Freedom Caucus, MAGA before MAGA was cool, former Deputy Chief of Staff for President Trump, Louisiana State Treasurer, a principled conservative, proven MAGA, John Fleming, Senate.
I'm John Fleming, and I authorized and paid for this ad.
From a blue collar.
All right, so here's the thing. How much must it suck that John Fleming was the chief of staff, or assistant chief of staff to Donald Trump, and couldn't even get Trump's endorsement for this Senate seat? Like, imagine how much he must be like, he has to sit there and run these ads saying that I was MAGA before MAGA was cool. He was like a MAGA hipster, so to speak. Like, if you were going to look at all of the Republicans running for office and try and pick the one who would be the best one to be a pro-Trump guy, it would be Fleming. Like, to me, honestly, I don't want to vote for him. I would never vote for, I didn't vote for him for treasurer.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
So I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to vote for him. There are a lot of Democrats who are actually talking about unregistering from the Democratic Party so they could be no party and vote in the Republican primary so they could try and get Cassidy elected, because they believe that of all of the people who are running in the Republican primary, that Cassidy is the safest bet, because Louisiana is not going to vote for a Democrat, and as such, they want the safest bet out there. I say nay to all that. I do not believe in doing that one bit. Not that I don't believe in doing shenanigans at the Republican primary. I take the other side. I say, if Louisiana is going to elect a Republican, let's make for damn sure it's the absolute worst Republican of the pack. Let's absolutely make sure that it's going to be a Republican who is going to make Donald Trump and the Republican Party look like utter and complete garbage, or more so than they already do. That's what you should do. And that's what Democrats have done in the past. Not necessarily shenanigans with voting in the primary, but for example, there are Democrats, I want to say, I don't think it was Klobuchar, I think it was one from Missouri. Who is your former senator, Jeff? I'm blanking on the name. And as soon as somebody types the former senator from Missouri, or Missouri, depending on where you are in the state, I'll remember it. It'll be like, oh yeah, what a dumbass. She's on MSNBC or what, MS Now all the time or whatever. But she basically said, look, this is what we would do. I would run against Republicans and I would run campaign ads. She would run campaign ads basically talking about how horrible of a Republican this conservative candidate was. And it would be paid for by her campaign or whatever. Claire McCaskill, thank you, which choices at every game. She would say, I ran all of these ads, and that would say, that this person has an extremist conservative voting record, and then at the end of the primary, it would be that of the worst of the Republicans to come out of the primary, and then she would have an easier time beating them. And I'm like, that's being a mad genius right there. But even if we don't, I don't, back then Missouri was a swing state. I don't think Missouri is a swing state at the moment, but we're not a swing state in Louisiana. We've long since lost any idea of being a swing state. All of our Democrats that ran were so-called blue dog Democrats, the conservatives ones, your Mary Landrieu's, your John Bel Edwards. Hell, we had John Bel Edwards for 8 years up until a few years ago. But even he was staunchly pro-life. He signed the draconian abortion bill into law. He only made a slight twist that made it only ever so slightly better than the Texas one. But still, he was good about other policies. He was good during COVID, but still a pro-life piece of crap. But we were not going to get a leftist Democrat as governor either. So you got to kind of pick your battles, right? So I don't think for a second that there's any shot in hell that the Democratic Party in Louisiana, especially as run now, the Democratic Party of Louisiana is hot garbage and is worthless. They've not done anything for years except for getting one guy elected to the governorship for 8 years, which in and of itself should be impressive. But the guys he ran up against were a Trump wannabe who have even less brains than Trump, and then 4 years before he beat David Vitter, the whoremonger. Not that we oppose prostitution. Sex work is real work, and we support sex workers here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from left, that's right. But he was a hypocritical whoremonger because he would speak out against these things and then utilize the services of hookers. But point being is that if we're going to get in there, if you're going to have Democrats in the state of Louisiana who want to temporarily jump ship and vote in the Republican primary, don't vote for the most palatable one to help that person win. Vote for the least palatable one to make sure that everybody sees this is exactly what MAGA is bringing you. Now, I don't know if that's John Fleming. There might even be somebody worse. But of the three who could potentially come out of the primary as a winner, it probably is John Fleming. That being said, I'm not going to vote for any of them in the general election. I will vote for whoever the Democratic nominee is, unless for some reason it would be, some absolute somebody who was terrible. Like there was one time in a runoff in a general election for the Louisiana 2nd Congressional District where the absolutely corrupt dollar bill Jefferson was running, and I could not vote for him, so I voted for the Green Party candidate instead. And that we ended up getting up Joseph Gow, who was the congressperson for 2 years, and Joseph Gow once told me at a town hall, "You are much, much smarter than I am." What was that again? "You are much, much smarter than I am." Thank you, Congressman Gow. Anyway, but any excuse to play that audio, right? But point being is that if we as Democrats were smart in this state, which unfortunately we're not, we would try and make sure that the most horrific Republican came out. Because if we're going to get one that's from out of Louisiana, we should get the most horrific one, I think. Anyway, let's see. Distant galaxy. Maybe Louisiana needs some liberalism. Well, maybe there is a liberal podcast coming out of Louisiana that maybe if this show grew more than it currently is now, maybe we could actually get it done. But that would require me getting something going viral, and I don't know how to do that apparently. So, Jolie's going to bed. Good night, Jolie. Thank you for helping. Good to see you. Yeah, that guy's name is Dan. He seems promising. Thank you, Disney Galaxy. Anyway, but yeah, that's the Louisiana. And there's other people running listed. You have Bill Cassidy. You have Randall Arrington, Marquita Cottenham, Tracy Dendy, John Fleming, Chris Holder. I have heard of Chris Holder. Jan John, Joshua Marat, Eric Skrmetta. Person with 4 initials to start the name, Skrmetta. Mark Spencer. I've heard of Skrmetta. I've heard of Chris Holder because I think Chris Holder is one of the ones who runs commercials on Jeff's show. But most of the other people, I have no idea who they are. So if I had to say that there were people, of the people in the Republican primary currently who have a chance in hell to win, it would be, I don't even think it would be Bill Cassidy, because I think Bill Cassidy is a dead man walking at this point, but it would be Julia Letlow and John Fleming, who are probably going to be the two who make the runoff. But you never know, because who the hell knows what strange bedfellows will be created during this election time period. So thank you, Aaron, for sharing the Patreon link, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there. You can also support the show. Most important thing, like the stream, share the show, share videos, comment on videos, help the algorithm, because Algor needs more rhythm. Buy stuff from the Liberal Dan Radio store, which is linked to from almost every video, I think, at this point, over on YouTube as well. Venmo, Liberal Dan on Venmo, at Liberal Dan. You can scan the QR code as well. What else? Gift subscriptions over on Twitch. Buy subscriptions. Use your Amazon Prime account to buy and get an Amazon Prime free Liberal Dan Radio membership or subscription over on Twitch. On YouTube, you can become a Liberal Danimal. You can gift Liberal Danimal memberships as well. You could also super chat, super stickers, etc. All that good ways to help out Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right. Of course, you get more visibility by gifting memberships and by doing super chats and stuff like that, and you get your chance to have your whatever you want to say highlighted, and that's cool or whatever. And I appreciate anybody that does that. Of course, if you send Liberal Dan Radio, if you send Liberal Dan on Venmo cash, do it friends and family, because you're not buying anything specifically, I get to keep all that money. Whereas YouTube does take their cut of everything else that you pay to YouTube. But again, also super chats, super stickers, stuff like that also help the algorithm. So I don't know how that plays out in the whole. I don't know how the inner workings of how the YouTube algorithm works totally. If I did, I'd have 1 million subscribers by now. But anyway, Luck Dragon, this is a terrible show, but this is the worst show ever. The worst show you've ever seen. No one's seen any worse shows than Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. I should have like a fake Donald Trump. I'm trying to get comedian JL Coven on there, and I would love to have him say, Liberal Dan Radio is the best show you're not listening to. Listen to this guy, liberal. I don't like liberals, but if you're going to listen to anybody, listen to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. So, let's do Orb Rumor in 2000. Carnahan died in a plane crash 22 days before the election, but his name remained on the ballot due to state law, and he defeated incumbent John Ashcroft. Yeah, that was pretty damn embarrassing for John Ashcroft, wasn't it? Yes, John Ashcroft was the Republican. Yes, that is correct. You can just use Trump Avoy to do it. Yeah, but I want J.L. Coven to do it because he's so good. He's such a good stand-up, such a good comic about that. Anyway, did I mess this up? God damn it. Let's exit that and then put this back down here and put this back up there and do it like this. I'm just going to go. Usually I go through a lot of. I have some fact checking from the State of the Union that when I was watching through some of it at least. I did have plans last night, so I ended up going out for a little bit of it. But you have his claim that there was zero crime or murders down almost 100% in D.C. We'll see what NPR has to say about that. You had the individual who was shot by the person, the guards woman who was killed. Trump said that she was killed by somebody who shouldn't have been here. In the State of the Union, Donald Trump said that the person who shot the 2 National Guards people in Washington, D.C., that the person shouldn't have been here. That person was given refugee status by the Biden administration, but did not fulfill and finish the whole process of becoming a legal permanent resident until the Trump administration. And now Kristi Noem lied to everybody and said that it was Biden that was the reason for it. But this person who was, the person who shot these 2, he was vetted by the Trump administration. So if Trump is going to say that the person shouldn't have been here, it's the Trump administration themselves that vetted the murderer. Right? And of course, when he was talking about the mom of, was it Andrew, the guy that got the Purple Heart, and it was good that he got the Purple Heart. I can agree with him getting the Purple Heart. I'm not going to argue that that was a bad thing. He should get all the recognition in the world. Andrew should get all the recognition in the world. And then his mom apparently had great faith in that that he would beat the odds, that the doctors would be wrong, and that he would survive. And now he's still surviving. But of course, Donald Trump is like, and she said, "Sir, he's going to pull through, sir." Like, I don't believe that she once said "sir." I don't believe it one bit. Like, again, the only person who I know of who said "sir" to Donald Trump was Juan Orlando Hernandez in his letter begging for a pardon, and referred to him as "sir" in the letter, and then he got his pardon. So that's what happens. But anyway, I don't believe that she said "sir." I don't believe that anybody says "sir" in just regular standard speak, especially to start the conversation, right? Trump says no inflammation, right? What country has no inflation? Yeah, it's ridiculous, all of the stuff that Donald Trump made up. But one of the things that I was watching, I was looking at it, and it was, you had Eric Trump, and they applauded Kushner for the bullshit Kushner's doing in the Middle East, right? So Kushner was sitting one row behind Ivanka, and was it Large Trump was sitting one row behind Eric Trump. So why were the spouses not sitting next to each other? I don't understand that. I mean, I understand you had all the Trump kids sitting in a row, but why wouldn't you have, like, Trump kid, spouse, Trump kid, spouse, Trump kid's girlfriend, or whatever, Trump kid, whatever. Why would you not have them sitting next to their spouses? Why would you sit them separately from their spouses? That just seemed kind of weird to me. But maybe that's to quote another line from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So that's how they do it in that family. Same scene too. On Israel, Trump. Oh, nobody believed that we would get back. Nobody would have been able to get back the hostages that I got back from Gaza, from Hamas. Joe Biden got back more hostages than you did, Donald Trump. And if Joe Biden would have remained president, or had Vice President Harris gotten elected president, she would have been able to get those people back, and probably would have gotten them back more quickly. Because, you're an idiot and you fall into things. Anything that happens that helps people gives anybody a benefit that's not a rich, wealthy person or whatever is just, dumb luck and happenstance. But yeah, so that whole lie, I was immediately like, we have to fact check that. Let's see. But NPR does have some sort of an annotated, kind of step-by-step on things that Trump said and fact-checking. Trump, after 4 years, which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. Apparently, he didn't say, at least according to NPR, he hasn't said that zero border crossings ever. But he has said that in the past, and NPR basically says it is not true that there have been zero crossings. For example, there were 237,538 in 2025, according to data from Customs and Border Protection. So even Customs and Border Protection are saying the zero number is not true. So there you go. That's one lie that he and Noam and other people have been telling for months now. And supposedly it's the lowest it's been in 50 years. But again, how do they know? Because on the border, you don't have the massive amounts of people that you might have had on the border, because ICE and Border Patrol are working in concert together in Minneapolis and New Orleans and Memphis and all these other places. Because
if Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist.
One of the things that was funny in that video, by the way, that I played earlier that I forgot to mention, is that you had Donald Trump standing on a podium and it looked like he farted. It literally looked like he farted. Let's play that or we'll play that towards the end of the show again, just to kind of show that one more time. Maybe we'll play that as we're going out, and then we'll go to the other songs that we normally play, because it does look like they made Donald Trump fart on the thing, and it's brilliant. I died laughing when I saw it happening, and I can't believe that I forgot to bring it up right after that video. So anyway, but yeah, why would we believe the numbers when, again, why about the numbers? Stop the testing. So the line that he said, right? Did murderers, ex-convicts, and mental institution patients emigrate to U.S. under Biden? The NPR says there's no evidence of this. So no evidence. Again, no evidence. It doesn't exist. Did Somali members, some members of the Somali community pillage 19 billion? Apparently, the numbers of fraud that are going on are showing much smaller numbers than that. It's not 19 billion, so that's false. In 12 months, Trump says that he secured commitments for more than 18 trillion pouring in from all over the globe in foreign investment. The total of investment of at home and abroad sits at 10 trillion, and so other people have found that number inflated as well. Trump says in a breakthrough operation, the United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil, blah, blah, blah. Trump repeated his stated claim that U.S. obliterated Iran's nuclear program. However, Trump has not explained why he would have to consider a new round of attacks against Iran's nuclear program if it is supposedly obliterated. Again, he said the first 10 months he ended 8 wars. That's bullshit. He didn't end 8 wars. The only thing they could point to, perhaps his biggest success, was brokering a ceasefire, but even that, Israel's still attacking, so it's not really a ceasefire. If you're still firing, the fire hasn't ceased, therefore it's not a ceasefire. Trump's Iranian protesters, just over the last couple of months, with protests, killed at least 332,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. Iran security forces unleashed a brutal crackdown, and the Human Rights News Agency put it at 7,000. Various human rights groups say the number could be higher. Iran's government acknowledged more than 3,000 deaths. Nobody's acknowledging 32,000 deaths. Of course, what happens when Donald Trump bombs Iran? More people will die, right? Trump claims the economy was the turnaround for the ages. When I last spoke at the chamber 12 months ago, I just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels. The U.S. economy was in solid shape before Trump returned to the White House. The Economist in October 2024 labeled the U.S. economy the envy of the world. Inflated claims about inflation. He says the Biden administration and its allies in Congress gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. Inflation has cooled in recent months, but the cost of living is still climbing faster than most people would like. Few items have gotten cheaper in the last year, like gasoline and eggs, but housing, groceries, electricity, and natural gas have all gotten more expensive. Inflation reached a 4-decade high of 9.1% in 2022. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine set prices are soaring around the world. And in fact, they're not even including the actual facts about this is when it comes to the oil prices, where oil prices were inflated in 2022. Why? What happened? What happened then in 2022? Biden was president, but Donald Trump had a policy, had negotiated a deal between Russia and OPEC when it came to the production of oil, because oil prices were tanking to the detriment of U.S. oil producers, and he wanted to do something to protect U.S. oil producers, which, fine, I can agree that something had to be done. Of course, the art of the deal guy, or the short of the deal guy, I should say, didn't come up with a great deal, because he did make it so that they would artificially reduce the output of oil from OPEC and from Russia during the pandemic, but then never put into place any sort of caveat that says what happens if demand starts going up. Well, the deal was set to go through into 2022, and then demand started going up because people started returning to work, people started going on vacation again, the responsible people at least. All the other people were still being stupid, but the responsible people were like, okay, we now have the go-ahead that we can start doing things again, and they didn't respond in kind or in turn with increased oil production. So what happens when you have artificially reduced oil production with increasing demand? Prices skyrocket. So the reason that prices for oil skyrocketed in 2022 was not because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but it was also in part of you had these skyrocketing oil prices, easy for me to say, that were specifically because of Donald Trump's poor deal making. So, let's see. Trump's tariffs have raised the price on some important goods, but the effects of overall cost of living have been limited. Annual inflation dipped to 2.4 in January, but still, it's not zero like what he claims. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs. Yes, they have had big gains, but again, stock market gains don't necessarily help the average working class individual. So there's that. Job growth. More Americans are working today than any other time in part of American history. Think about it. Any time in the history of our country, more working today. 100% of the jobs created under my administration have been in the private sector. Job growth slowed sharply in the last year. U.S. employers added just 181,000 jobs in all of 2025, compared to more than 1.4 million in 2024. Hiring picked up in January of this year, but the job gains last month were concentrated in healthcare, an industry typically insulated from the ups and downs of the broader economy. Unemployment has remained low, but of course, unemployment, adding my own 2 cents here, is a manipulated statistic sometimes, because you can have the same amount of people who are not employed, and some people fall off of the unemployment benefits and as such don't get counted, so it makes it look like the unemployment rate is smaller, and those people have said to have given up looking for jobs, when in reality they just ran out of unemployment benefits. Tax cuts. He says, last year I urged this Congress to begin the mission by passing the largest tax cuts in history. Congressional Republicans voted last summer to extend portions of the 2017 tax cuts, which otherwise would have expired. Analysis by the Tax Foundation found the package is the 6th largest tax cut in U.S. history, not the largest. The bill also adds new tax breaks on tips, overtime pay, and we've discussed why that's not the great deal that we claim it is, or he claims it is at least. Results will be somewhat higher take-home pay for many workers in 2026. The bill also cut government spending on safety net programs such as Medicaid and food stamps, which of course then hurts the people who need it the most. The nonpartisan CBO says the bulk of the tax savings will go to the wealthy. Middle-income households will see a smaller benefit, between $500 and $1,000 a year. Families making less than $55,000, the loss of government benefits will likely outweigh any tax savings, leaving them worse off. Tax cut is also expected to encourage more business. And where do people who work on those, getting those, tipped employees, many of the tipped employees are those lower income people who are probably also getting Medicaid and food stamps or whatever, who now aren't going to get as much. So whatever gains they got from getting this money, from the no tax on tips is going to be lost again, as they say. Standing by tariffs after rebuke by SCOTUS. Trump, as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries, false, will be like in the past, substantially replace modern-day systems of income tax, taking greater financial burden off the people that I love. Again, the people that you love are the wealthy, rich people, so maybe that's correct. Maybe he, quietly said, he said the quiet part out loud, really. But again, people pay tariffs. We pay the tariffs. So clearly, the financial burden is on us who are paying the tariffs, you dumb shit. So, tariffs moving forward, factories, jobs, investments, trillions and trillions of dollars will continue pouring in the United States because we finally have a president who put America first. Bullshit. President Trump argues that high tariffs will spark a renaissance in United States manufacturing. It hasn't happened yet. Factories have been in a slump for most of the last year, shedding 108,000 jobs. I guess it also hurts when you actually go in there and start raiding factories like, the Hyundai factory. Energy, gasoline, which reached a peak over $6 a gallon in some states under the predecessor, was quite honestly a disaster. It's now below $2.30, in some places $1.99. According to Gas Buddy, only the cheapest 10% of gas stations are seeing prices of $2.31 per gallon or cheaper. Gasoline was $1.85 in Iowa early January. Prices have since risen. Specific prices named by President Trump are exceptional rather than representative. Gasoline is cheaper now than before his inauguration. Blah, blah, blah. Those prices are driven by global markets. Worldwide oversupply of oil is the dominant force, keeping the price in check. Presidents do not set gas prices over. Politics can be a factor. And Trump has yet to put pressure on oil cartel OPEC to keep oil prices down. And again, as we said before in the show, and we said on previous shows, Donald Trump negotiated with OPEC and Russia to bring oil prices down during the pandemic, but there was no caveat. So one of the reasons gas prices skyrocketed during Biden's administration was because of the shitty deal that Donald Trump signed with OPEC and Russia, and not because of anything Biden did or any of Biden's energy policies. Let's see what else. Venezuelan oil received in the United States. Actually, the Venezuelan oil went to Israel. Some of it did. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright says U.S. facilitated oil sales total more than $1 billion. However, Venezuelan government has said it has only received $300 million in a Senate hearing last month. Senate Secretary of State Marco Rubio said $200 million is in a bank account in Qatar. Why would it be there? It is unclear where the rest of the money is and when and where it will reach the Venezuelan people. Oil and gas, natural gas production. American oil production is up by 600,000 barrels a day. U.S. set an annual crude production record last year, about 400,000 barrels a day from 2024, but that was not a new trend initiated by Trump. Crude output froze for 4 years in a row, meaning under Biden. So there's that. As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all been cut off, all cut off. Since Trump took office in his second term, there have been mounting concerns about former federal employees and field experts on the diminished capacity to counter violent extremism. Many seasoned counterterrorism experts left government service, and budget cuts have fundamentally shifted core infrastructure that had been devoted to community-based prevention programs, data gathering, and analysis. Thank you, Doge. Partnerships. The administration replaced an outgoing head with a 22-year-old without experience in law enforcement or counterterrorism outside of DHS. Other agencies have traditionally played a role in countering violent extremism, such as the FBI has also seen manpower diverted to immigration enforcement. So, that's Donald Trump's fault and not the Democrats' fault, right? And Democrats only want to see, better guidelines on how federal law enforcement should be dealing with people when they're going into cities and, killing people, aka they shouldn't be killing people. Again, Save America Act. Cheating is rampant. He claims cheating is rampant in elections. Voter fraud is incredibly rare. The Heritage Foundation website that we cite several times proves that it is not the big problem that Donald Trump likes to make it out to be. And of course, the Save America Act or whatever is problematic in that it sets different standards for different people, aka if you're people who are more likely to have their names changed after getting married, or people who are going to have to jump through additional hoops, and you cannot claim to have equal protection under the law if you do not allow people to have the same requirements. Trump, every service member recently received the Warrior dividend of $17.76. They put it on my desk, got the money from the tariffs and other things. The money was allocated to service members in the massive omnibus budget known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. Congress, which has the power of the purse, is solely responsible for taxation and appropriation. Approved $2.9 billion to subsidize housing for military members. Trump rebranded those funds as a Warrior dividend. So yes, it wasn't him that did it. It was the congressional people who did it. And then there's the discussion. I think Chad has suggested that I might be wrong on this. I haven't quite gone through into it yet. But if it was changed from a housing subsidy to a bonus, so to speak, it goes from untaxed to taxed, which means they get less money. If that's the case. Trump RX, the prescription drug prices. Americans will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. Anywhere, the lowest price. The claim is not true. Americans still pay several times more money for prescriptions than people in peer countries. Trump administration has taken aim at drug prices in various ways, but how many people it will help is not very clear. Things like Trump RX, you won't be able to use it if you have insurance, most likely. So therefore, it's not going to help people who are insured. Now, there are only 40 drugs currently available on Trump RX, on the Trump RX website. People using insurance paying a copay for the medications will likely have cheaper prices than Trump RX, unless you're in a low premium, high deductible type plan, which you still won't be able to use Trump RX for it. Payments to insurance companies. Trump, that's why I introduced the great healthcare plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies, blah, blah, blah. At this point, Trump's great healthcare plan isn't a comprehensive health policy. It's an articulation of policy priorities, and it actually done anything about it. So therefore, you should take that with a grain of salt. Trump says no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. For the second year in a row, Trump has brought a guest as a parent with a story about a child who began gender transitions in secret. The children mentioned in both speeches seem to have done some version of social transition, which involves changing name, pronouns, clothes, haircuts. All these things are reversible. This is a topic he brought up frequently. The whole trans for everybody thing that he claims is out there. Trump efforts to ban transgender care has focused on medical interventions for youth. Of course, in the vast majority of cases, you don't see people who are kids getting surgeries, especially not bottom surgeries, for the purposes of having gender affirming surgeries for trans kids. Now, there are people who do get gender affirming surgeries who are kids, but those are people who have injuries to their parts and who want to maintain their parts as is, or their parents want their parts to remain as is. That would be also considered gender affirming care, but nobody wants to talk about that. Trump says last year murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, lowest number in 125 years. Murders have been in a steep decline following a pandemic era surge. Homicide rate in 35 study cities dropped 21% in 2025 compared to 2024. FBI hasn't released 2025 homicide data. There is strong possibility that the murder rate will be roughly 4 per 100,000 residents, I guess, in D.C. That, according to the council, would be the lowest rate ever recorded. Murders and violent crime are already declining under Biden's administration in 2024. Joe Biden's final year in office, violent crime dropped to a 20-year low. Again, Irana Zarutska was fatally stabbed while riding a light rail. The man accused in the attack was 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr., had mental health issues. Trump claimed Brown was an immigrant released to America thanks to open border policies. There's no evidence of this. Local media has reported that Brown was born and raised in Charlotte and had spent time in and out of North Carolina jails. So, yeah, once again, he uses immigration to fearmonger when there's no such evidence that the individual who murdered her was in any way a sort of violent immigrant or whatever. So that was most of what was said in that fact check by NPR. One thing that I did want to point out too is that Trump supporters have often been claiming that, or touting the fact that Donald Trump is saying that, as he said in the State of the Union address, he did say that whatever job growth existed happened in the private sector. That's because there are Republicans out there who are saying that the amount of people employed by the federal government has hit an all-time low, or at least hit maybe a very long time low, or at least maybe since, I don't know if they started tracking it, at least maybe since the 50s or 60s. I don't know what the actual number is at that point, because I don't talk Republican talking points. I don't believe in Republican talking points. Republicans are basically full of shit when they repeat what the Trump administration wants you to hear, what they want to say. So therefore, take it with as many grains of salt as possible. But let's think about this logically, shall we? If he's cut. Let's take it as all true. Let's believe for a second that the Trump administration actually has cut all those jobs, and we have the lowest amount of federal employees hired. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing. We could have employees that we needed that we no longer have, like when they cut the people who watched the nuclear stockpile. They had to go get all those people back because they didn't measure twice before cutting, right? He also cut things like USAID and food stamps or whatever, and implemented tariffs that were harmful to people. But with all of these policies that are supposedly so great for the economy, why are we still running a deficit? Why do we still have a deficit? Tell me that, conservatives. If you're a conservative watching this right now, either live in the chat or on one of the videos that are created here later that will be posted after the show at some point, why do we still have a deficit if Donald Trump's policies are so great? There's a difference between Republicans and Democrats. Democrats tax and spend. Republicans cut taxes and still spend. Hell, to Jeff Carrera on WGSO's point, he actually when I made this argument earlier today after Grover Norquist called into his show, I made the point that we still have spending going on, and probably unnecessary spending going on. We all know it's unnecessary spending because, he'll push people to go stay at Mar-a-Lago or to go stay at Bedminster or any of his other resorts that when the federal government is out traveling. So more money is going to be spent and be funneled from the U.S. Treasury into his pockets, or the pockets of her sons and daughters, or whatever, the people that own and run the Trump Inc. or whatever. Why, if he is such a great deal maker, if he's such the art of the deal guy, shouldn't all of these cuts result in no deficit? Shouldn't we now have a budget surplus? Nope, we don't. Why? Because Republicans aren't serious about actually dealing with the deficit. They just want to cut taxes to their rich and wealthy friends. So again, conservatives, you tell me, if he's such a great deal maker, why are we not seeing the deficit go down? Why are we not seeing, inflation at actual lows? Why are we not seeing that? Because he's not. Because he's a terrible deal maker with terrible policies that are not helping you. They're helping the rich and the wealthy get richer and wealthier. That's why the Dow's over 50 grand, right? The Dow is over 50 grand. So the rich people are loving life. Meanwhile, the poors get poorer. The people who need assistance don't get the assistance. But that's a feature and not a bug to the Trump administration. So, yes, Alyosha, we did talk about it earlier with Dr. Oz and Vance trying to reduce Medicare funds. In fact, it was even the topic of this week's Hypocrite of the Week, which will go up after the show is over. Or maybe tomorrow morning, since it's almost 10, and we usually don't like to put new videos up until after 10, simply because I want more people to be awake when the videos go live. So anyway, let's go back over. What are the odds that Trump would use the word Renaissance? If it was a speech, he would stop and go, Renaissance. No one has ever heard that word. It's really incredible. I have the best words. Yeah, I mean, Trump would probably have just as hard of a time saying Renaissance as he would saying, acetaminophen.
I said, well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
Ali Osher sent me an email. Thank you, Ali Osher. I will check it. Let me pop that real quick and just look and see. Lots of Jim Cornette. Last night, instead of a leader, we got to listen to an obnoxious babbling fool in again. Oh, the fact, again, wrestlers, I've talked about this before. I've talked about wrestling before and how a lot of people think that wrestling fans and wrestlers are just a bunch of redneck hicks who are all going to be MAGA conservatives. And there are plenty of them out there, don't get me wrong. But Jim Cornette was huge in Mid-South Wrestling. He was huge in like the Southern territories, whatever, before he came up and joined the WWF back in the day. And he's still out there, and it's been him. You have Kevin Nash, who's a wrestler, who is constantly out there bashing Donald Trump. He's definitely posting progressive ideas there. You have, again, CM Punk, who goes in the middle of Texas when he was at a show in Texas, wears an abortion rights or human rights shirt. You have Kenny Omega. He's Canadian, but Kenny Omega pointing out, trans rights or human rights signs, making a point to say, look at this sign in the crowd. You have Brody King wearing the Abolish ICE shirt and then selling the shirt and giving the proceeds to families of people harmed by ICE. So, but yeah, let's just pop this open real quick and just see. I don't necessarily want to show anything that would show anybody else's email address, but here we go. I guess we can do it this way. Let's do that. Let's do this real quick. We can do this, and then we can do this, and that way that's covered. You don't see any of the email addresses, but you can see some of the memes. Imagine winning, again, gold medal for your country for the first time in 50 years and getting invited to the White House only to be fed McDonald's and take photos with half of Jeffrey Epstein's client list. Yep. Funny how memory works. Republicans are mad. Democrats didn't clap for Trump's lies, but during Joe Biden's 2024 State of the Union, they sat stone-faced for no billionaire should pay less in taxes than a teacher. You can't love your country only when you win. Cap drug costs at $2,000. They wouldn't stand for fairness. Wouldn't stand for democracy. They wouldn't stand for lower prices. Exactly. You should be ashamed for not standing up. But standing up. But standing up we are. Exactly. The Jim Cornette one that we talked about. U.S. women's hockey team had lunch with culinary legend Stanley Tucci while the dudes were served cold McDoubles at the White House. I didn't know about the Stanley Tucci thing. That's great. They're unwanted by the FBI director, Kash Patel. Unwanted. Hilarious. Political revenge. J.D. Vance reveals Trump is freezing Medicaid money for Minnesota, weaponizing healthcare. Disgusting abuse of power. Of course, that was this week's Hypocrite of the Week. This week's Hypocrite of the Week is J.D. Vance, who announced the halting of Medicaid funds to Minnesota, I quote, to ensure the state of Minnesota takes its obligation seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. The total being held back is just under $300 million. Vance's boss is, of course, Donald Trump, who is suing the federal government for $10 billion. So much for the stewardship of our tax dollars. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com for more talk from the left. That's right. Anyway, there we go. So there's that. We covered that earlier. We're actually making life better for our citizens, trying to expand healthcare. Andy Bashir on how Democrats can appeal to the vote. Investing in roads and bridges and seeing public safety improve, says Kentucky Governor Andy Bashir. What Donald Trump has done hasn't made life easier. It's made it harder. Hoodlum nothing this clown likes more than ratings. His viewership was down 12% last night for the State of the Union. No one wants to watch your snooze fests. Trump humiliated as Americans bail on his big moment. Shitler hates that. Hilarious. Let's see. Talking points is that public government, whatever. This is not politics. It's propaganda with a badge. Yeah. Jordan Harmon, Muskie Nation, and Mackenzie Roberts. Muskie Nation organized town halls across their whatever. 2 Muskie Nation women stopped a massive AI data center on tribal land, and now they're on the cover of Time. That's pretty neat. Again, of course, the massive data centers should be required to have their own electricity, should be required to have their own water, should be able to not operate to the detriment of the people in the communities surrounding them. It should not cause any increases of taxes or whatever, or energy prices, etc. They should be required to have a negative or offsets to make whatever impact they have to be negative and not positive, or negative financially, positive for the environment. State prosecutors reopening investigations into Trump family business and practices ahead of 2026. Well, of course they are, because, they should, because they're a bunch of crooks. Vance's administration is pausing some, we already talked about that. Johnny MAGA, Garrett Wade with Trump's Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum. And then that's the end of that one. So there you go. So let's see. One thing I did want to do, I guess, before the end of the show would be to, let's bring this back down again. We're going to, when we end the show, we will go ahead and do the, because I want to do the, this again, the, if Trump can't see it video again, and maybe we'll do the other video again, and maybe play one more song after that, as we're heading off of into the sunset. But the thing I want you to look at for this particular time when we're playing this video is simply the fact that watch when Trump goes up to the podium and look how it looks like AI made him. I didn't even ask the AI to do this. It looks like AI made him fart behind the podium, and it's just great that they did that. So, but again, these are the 2 new ones. I played them earlier in the show. I'll play them later again as well. Or are we playing them again? And we will be back again tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Time here at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com. Either way, is you can watch the show. Catherine, thank you for hanging around for the 2 hours of the show. Appreciate you. Hope to subscribe. Hope to see you around more often. We're just, the only way that the show grows is if y'all help the algorithm, like, share, comment. Longer comments, I think, are even better than shorter ones. Interact with the videos, respond to other people's interactions with the videos. Unfortunately, sometimes negative interactions are better. For some reason, I'm getting more fat shaming now, even though I've lost 150 pounds. I'm still getting fat shaming on the channel, on Instagram, on TikTok, and even on YouTube. harass the shit out of those people. Make sure they know that that type of thing doesn't get tolerated here by people who have brains who can actually argue points. Because to me, if you make an argument that somebody is fat instead of actually addressing the point that I'm making, you've already proven yourself to be incapable of making any sort of intellectual argument, making any sort of intellectual discourse, yada, yada, yada. So we will go ahead and watch this video and then the other one, and then finish the show with another maybe song or two. But thank you all very much again. Appreciate you. Have a great one. Peace.
Obama and SCA must not exist. Stop the testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Else includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Downtown tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find the proof of a system that's cold and unkind. A chaotic secret, an NDA signed, an illegal bribe. Michael Cohen fined. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights rolled back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still. Just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright. Cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace. And those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
gonna be a good educator. Gather round everyone and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, to say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan.
Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writings on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation containment. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue of Liberty, the writing you can't see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish face laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, well, numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, well, numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest.